The following graphical presentation is a representation of the teachings of Ramana Maharshi. Ramana Maharshi taught us that the finite manifestation is arising out of the infinite self, and it has a certain progression in which it does that. And what this presentation is primarily about is how we turn our attention back from the manifestation back onto ourself in a process known as self-enquiry, or the direct path to self-realization. It gives us the mechanism in which the direct path is the primary and really the only path to destruct the ego, in which the ego never rises again and permanent change happens within ourself and our experience of ourself. The graphics in this presentation show us how the self dissolves the ego from the inside out. And it is in that inside out dissolving that you experience directly the beautiful changes and the beautiful attributes of your infinite loving self. Just a reminder, I do give free one-on-one private non-duality sessions for those who are interested. You can go to my website, loveoutpouring.com, to book a session. Take care. Hello. Let's imagine that this light yellow cylinder represents totality. Totality is all that there is. Totality never came into existence. It doesn't have a beginning, a middle, or an end, and therefore it is unborn. It doesn't have any edges or boundaries like this cylinder does, but we cannot represent totality in any sort of diagram or even know it conceptually, so we have to just work with what we have. So out of self apparently arises the ego, the egoic I. And this, in Ramana Maharshi's terms, is the I thought, the original thought. And the original thought is, I am this body. We take ourselves to be this mind and body and its will and its intellect, and these are the sheaths of the body. According to Ramana, there are 5 sheaths of this body that I'm going to go over right now. First is the will, or the vasanas. These are our tendencies or inclinations to move us away from ourselves. You could say these are what animate us and make us an apparent individual relative to everybody else in the world. From here, the vasanas push into the intellect, and the intellect is our discernment. This is where we determine what we think is right or wrong. Other possibilities are our likes and dislikes. From here, this pushes into the egoic mind. This is the mind that we all have taken ourselves to be. We believe we're a mind that is contained in this body, and it's this egoic mind that has created all of the havoc in our life and is primarily the reason why we're probably watching this video right now. And it is what we're trying to get rid of. From here, it pushes into the energy, or the prana. This is the life energy, you could say, that animates the physical body. And it's these 5 blue sheaths that, again, create the body. From the body, as we all know, are the 5 senses of sight and smell and taste and touch. And from here, we project the world. So you could say that this progression from self up to world is the process in which the finite world arises out of the infinite self. Self pushes this ego into apparent existence that creates an apparent body, that creates the apparent senses, which creates the apparent world that we all believe that we live in. And I have some coloring going on here too, where all of this progression is in a darker form, because while we believe ourselves to be an ego, we have our attention on this progression. And that's why the self right now, the light yellow cylinder, is light, because we have moved our attention away from ourself and put it onto the world. But Advaita and self-enquiry says we turn that attention around. And this is where the direct path to self-realization comes into play, because we turn our attention all the way back to self. We bypass all of these apparent sheaths that apparently make the world, and we go directly to self. We go directly to the goal. And if we compare this to meditation, meditation only comes back to the egoic mind, and it soothes the egoic mind. And we all know that this does help. There's no doubt about it. But the problem with it is the ego mind will rise again. So then you have to do that same meditation to get the same outcome. There is no permanent change here relative to the direct path. So as we abide in self, self automatically erodes the progression from the inside out. So it starts to eliminate the ego, which, again, the ego is the belief I am this body. So the vasanas start to get weak. And when the vasanas get weak, the intellect gets weak. And when the intellect gets weak, the mind gets weak. And so after a while of practicing the direct path of self-enquiry, when we're out in the world, we realize this. We're realizing that our vasanas aren't pushing us around like they used to, and our mind doesn't have the chatter it used to have. It is soothing, it's calming, it's actually being eliminated, because we are approaching it from the self, from the ground up. And as we all know, any of us who are doing this right now, that the elimination of mind is known as peace. From here, the energy starts to dissolve in the physical body. You start to lose your belief that you are this physical body, and therefore the five senses start to peel away, and therefore the world does as well. And once this happens, you could see the color change there. All of the progression has gone from dark to light, and we have turned our attention onto ourself primarily, in which now it has lit up. It is our main focus now. It's where all of our attention is. We don't know anything other than ourselves. And so as time goes on in self-enquiry, or apparent time, that is. The ego collapses, in which the wills collapse, the intellects collapse, the mind collapses, and the energy collapses, which collapses the thought, I am this body. And what happens is, what you're left with is just yourself. It doesn't mean that the physical body and world go away. It just means that you don't see them in the same light that you saw them prior to self-enquiry, prior to the direct path. You still see them, but you see them for the underlying reality, which is yourself. And that's all that you know. So you've moved from the belief that I am in this world to the inherent knowing that the world is within me or myself. There is no me anymore. There's no more individual I anymore. So you inherently know just yourself, and every other thing, apparent thing that you see, you only know as yourself as well. This collapses to just self, or I am, or awareness, which is the one substance of reality, the one substance of totality. And out of this comes the most profound, direct quote from Ramana Maharshi: awareness alone is I. The nature of I is Sat Chit Ananda, where Sat is existence or being, and Chit is awareness or consciousness or knowing. And when Sat and Chit know themselves inherently and directly as themselves, Ananda arises out of that, which is happiness and peace and love and beauty. I hope this helped you understand how the direct path works. It's a collapsing from inside out. You're bypassing the shells of the manifestation. You're directly abiding in self, and self erodes those shells from the inside out, leaving only yourself alone.